Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're checking out these cool Neumorphic designs that I've created, all these animations and transitions that I've made on my own on Figma in less than 10 minutes. These took very little time. Different triggers have different interactions on this page. They all look good, they all look beautiful. So without further ado, let's just get started with the tutorial. One of my subscribers made a podcast and I am one of the special guests. So go check the podcast out. I'll have all the links in the description. If you want me to do more Figma tutorials, comment down below. We love Figma and I'll understand that you want me to do more of these. So for this, I'm using Figma. You don't have to download Figma. You can just go to figma.com, and on figma.com, you just need to sign up and you'll get a page like this. You just need to say new file and it creates a new file for you. It's as simple and easy as that. It's free of cost, it's available on all devices and it's super easy to use. To start off, let's create a basic artboard. I'm gonna go with a square artboard and we'll create individual frames. So for this one, I need to give it a dark background. In Figma, if you go to design and under design, you see this fill component. You click on it, you can change the color from here. But it also saves all the colors that you might have used inside the document. In this case, I want this dark gray background and that is just perfect for this project. The next thing we need to do is pick up the rectangle tool from here or just click on R to pick up the rectangle tool. Hold shift and create a quick rectangle, or in this case, a square. So now that this square is ready to use, I can click on it and from the fill, I'll click on this color picker and drag this color picker out until you are able to select this gray portion. Now the rectangle here and the background are the same color, which is what the rule of neumorphism says. Now for neumorphism, we will need to create two box shadows, one the dark box shadow and one will be the light box shadow. In this case, in Figma, you can use multiple effects at one time. So I'll click on this plus icon right next to effect and it already gives me something called drop shadow, which is exactly what we want. If I click on this sun icon here, I will get the blur options, the X, Y options, and the opacity options. So in the X option, I want to say 4. In the Y, 4 is already there. The blur, I want to say 12. You can adjust this based on your requirements. And about 20% should be good for this case. Or maybe, 15% is better. Perfect. Again, we want to give this a border radius of about 24 pixels. So here is the corner radius option on the top right. I'll click on 24. So you can see now we have this very soft, rounded rectangle or square. To give it the light shadow now, what I'll do is click on the plus icon right next to effect again. And as you can see, they've added another drop shadow right here. I'll click on the sun icon again. In this case, I'll give it -4 by -4 on the X and Y axis. And the blur, I'll give it 12 again. And if I click on this color right here, I will get this color picker and I can drag this right to the white portion. Not too white, just a slightly grayed out white. And for the opacity, I'll give this about 10%. You can decrease this according to what you feel is correct. I'll give it maybe 8% or 5%. Perfect, it looks good and it follows the neumorphic style. Now in this case, we want an icon right here. So to get an icon, I can either use one of the resources I use or I can use a plugin. To install a plugin, go to this burger menu here, go to plugin and go to manage plugins. This will allow you to browse all the plugins that there are, and in the search bar, I'll type in Feather Icons. Now Feather Icons is an open source icon library, which is really good. I've already installed it. So I'll go back to this tab here. And from the plugins panel here, I can select Feather Icons. It might take half a second or two to load up. And as you can see, we've opened a window with all the icons right here. I'll search for home, and as you can see, home is there. I'll just drag this out, or I'll click it actually. And as you can see, home has been dropped here. Just gonna make this much bigger and put this in the center. I'll increase the stroke to about 4. As you can see now, this is a thicker icon. So under fill, I will go and I'll select from the top left here linear gradient. Inside linear gradient, the top gradient should be a light blue. I'll just choose a random light blue right here, maybe slightly more bluer, perfect. And I click on the second color right here, and I'll drag this color picker a little bit so that I can get a more darker sea blue kind of effect here. Now also increase the opacity of the second color to 100%. If I select this again, go to linear gradient again, I can drag these pointers to adjust the gradient perfectly. Oh, now this looks really good. But there is one catch. We want the gradient to shift when we're hovering over this. So what we'll do is, inside this gradient panel here, I'll drag this light gradient a little bit to the middle. And towards the left, to the leftmost, I'll click on this panel and it adds another color right here. So I want to choose a slightly yellow here. I'll drag this yellow also a little bit, and on the other end I want a slightly orange color, which by the way Figma has already saved for me. So I have these two colors and I can easily drag these gradients so I can't see the yellow from right here. Now by the way, don't worry, I will give the Figma file down in the description so you can go ahead and start the project off right away. So frame 8, I will click on frame 8 and I'll say Command D or Control D to duplicate the frame. Now in this case, what I'll do is I'll click on this rectangle and I'll increase the border radius or corner radius to about 100. This way it'll turn into this complete circle. I also want to increase the size of this circle just by a little bit and place it in the center. Perfect. Also, I want to click on this house and I will go to this gradient that I've created here and just drag these little dots around so as to drag the gradient around as well, and I can shift this yellow and orange to fit my needs. And I'll make this a little larger as well, not too large, just a little larger, so as to make this bigger. Now in Figma, what I can also do is animate box shadows, and in this case, I will do exactly that. So if I go to this white shadow, I will increase the blur for this, so 24, so it'll spread out more. I'll also give this -6 and -6 on the X and Y, so that it spreads out more and you can see it more. I'll decrease the opacity to 4%. And that will give me an effect of lifting up from the ground. I'm deriving a lot of interactions here from material design, so I think it's pretty cool. Now to prototype this, I'll go to the prototype tab here and click on this. I will click on this rectangle on the left, and there is a little dot, round dot, which appears here. I'll drag this round dot to the second artboard, which is frame 9, and it makes this little line to guide. Inside here, I get various options. So inside interaction, I want to say on hover, which is while hovering. I want to navigate, of course, to frame 9, perfect. Inside animation, if it's selected anything else, I can just go here and click on Smart Animate. Now, Smart Animate is very similar to Auto Animate in Adobe XD, so you know how it works. Inside here, I can select different options. I'll go for ease in and out. That's the smoothest of them all. And inside the time transition, I can give it anything. I'll give 450 milliseconds, that is. And that's about it. That's all we need to do. If I click on this rectangle, and top right here, I have a present button. I'll click on this present button. So you can increase the size of this, of course. In the top right, there is this 100% written. If I click on this size tab, I can choose between all these sizing options. In this case, I'll select fill, scale down or up to fill. As you can see, it fills the entire screen right here. If I hover over this, see how this animates? And this also shifts between this rectangle and this circle very smoothly and very intuitively. Now we'll create just one more animation here. I'll click on design again so as to switch back to the previous settings. I will, of course, create another artboard just like this on top, or another frame in this case, and the same size. Perfect. And I'll give it the same color as this top right here, gray. Perfect. Now, since I want to cut this short, I will copy this rectangle from the top right here, and the Neumorphic kind of effect is still present. So I'll make this much smaller, just like this. and put it right here in the center. So for the level or for the indicator, what I'll do is I'll just copy this rectangle and I'll make this much more narrower in size. And I'll place it right here in the center. I will make sure that it has some good distance between the edges or the corners right here, and I'll place it in the center. So the left edge is this dark gray, which I'll change to a red right here. And I'll give this a bright red from here. And on the right, I'll click here again, and I'll give it the same color, but just, lighter a little bit, but opacity should be about, say, 12%. Yeah, that looks really good. Now for a level, it should go from less to more. So in this case, I'll just click on this element here, hold shift, and while I'm holding shift, from one of these corners, I can just rotate it and the gradient shifts with it. So to create a circle, I'll click on O, which is the shortcut, and I'll hold shift and drag it out. So this creates a simple circle right here. And I'll put it on one of these edges, and I'll give it the same red color, but I won't give it a gradient. I'll reduce the opacity for this to about 45%. Now I'll click on this frame and say Command D, Control D to duplicate it. And in the second frame, I'll drag this circle out to the right. I'll hold shift so as to just drag it horizontally, put it here. And inside the colors, I will shift it to this green color that I want here, and I'll increase the opacity to 100. Now Figma is easily able to change or animate between gradients or opacities very smoothly. So I really like that about Figma. So to prototype this, I'll go to Prototype. I'll click on this circle here. For interaction, I'll click on drag. So while we're dragging this icon or this circle, it will drag the animation as well. Under that, I'll click on Navigate to, and I'll click on frame 11. So it navigates from this frame to this frame. Inside animation, I want to say Smart Animate. Go ahead and do that. Inside easing, I'll say ease in out, since that's the smoothest. And I'll give this a 500 millisecond timer. So if we drag this little icon from left to the right, see how the opacity also changes. It shifts from this dark to first this orange, then from this orange to this green, and it looks amazing. It's a perfect example to actually animate gradient. Now that was a little Figma tutorial. If you want me to do more tutorials on Figma or more videos on Figma, then go ahead and subscribe to my channel. Click that bell icon right next to the subscribe button so that you get all my videos on time. And I'll see you in the next video every Monday and Thursday without mistake.